Welcome, Arithmetic Ninjas, to dividing a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number. In this, we're going to use a method called the chunking method. Now, the chunking method is where you repeatedly subtract chunks of the number that you're dividing by until there's nothing left. Or if there is something left, that will be your remainder. So question number 1, we've got 416 divided by 13. Now, I always tell people to do the same chunks each time. So we'll have a chunk of one lot of 13. We'll have 10 13s. We'll have 100 13s. We'll have 2 13s, 20 13s, 200 13s, and we'll have one more, 5 13s. Now, the first thing we're going to do is work out these chunks. And these are the chunks that will get us our answer every time. So 1 lot, 10 lots, 100 lots, 2 lots, 20 lots, 200 lots, 5 lots. Let's work out these chunks first of all. 1 lot of 13 is 13. 10 13s is 130. 100 13s is 1,300. 2 13s is 26. 20 13s is 10 times bigger than that 26, so 260. And 200 13s is 10 times bigger again, so 2,600. 5 13s is a half of whatever 10 13s is, so that's a half of 130. So that's 65. Now, those are the chunks that are going to help us get our answer. So, we're going to start with writing the question at the top here. So, 13s into 416. And then we're going to see what's the biggest number out of this blue list that we can actually subtract from 416. Well, the biggest number I can see is 260. So, we're going to subtract 260. But we should always at the side make a note of what chunk of 13s that is. Well, 260 is 20 13s. So let's just put a little times 20 at the side just to remind us of how many 13s we've taken away. And now let's take that away. Well, 6 take away nothing is 6. 1 take away 6 we can't do, so borrow from the 4. That becomes a 3. And the 1 we've borrowed makes that into 11. 11 take away 6 is 5. 3 take away 2 is 1. So we're down to 156. Now we go back to our chunks. What chunk of 13 can we subtract now? Well, the next biggest number we can take away out of the list of blue chunks is this 130. And 130 is 10 13s. It's a chunk of 10 13s. So we're going to subtract 130. Make a note at the side that is 10 lots of 13. And let's work out what that is when we subtract that. 6 take away nothing is 6. 5 take away 3 is 2. 1 take away 1 is nothing. We're down to 26. Well, if you check the list of chunks again, 26 is 2 13s. So let's take away 26. Making it at the side that's 2 13s. And 26 take away 26 is obviously going to get us down to 0. Once we're down to 0, or as low as we can go, all we've got to do then is add up our chunks. Well, we've got a chunk of 20, a chunk of 10, and a chunk of 2. So 20 plus 10 plus 2 makes 32. We just need to add up the chunks. So therefore, that is 32 lots of 13 that make 416. So 416 divided by 13 equals 32. Final answer for question 1. Question 2, we're dealing with chunks of 23. So this time, we need 1 lot of 23, 10 lots of 23, 100 lots of 23, 2 lots, 20 lots, 200 lots, and 5 lots. And they're all lots of 23. So obviously what we need to do now is figure out what they are, in the same way that we did last time. 1 lot of 23 is 23. 10 lots of 23 is 230. 100 lots is 2,300. 2 lots of 23 is 46. 20 lots of 23 is 460. 200 lots is 4,600. And 5 lots of 23 is half of 10 lots of 23. And half of 230 is going to be 115. So 5 lots of 23 is 115. All we've got to do now is set our question out. So we have got 23s into 782. What's the biggest number we can subtract from 782 from the list of chunks? Well, we can subtract a 460. So that 460 is a chunk of 20 23s. So if we take off 460, make a note that that is 20 23s that we're subtracting. Let's work that out. 2 take away nothing is 2, 8 take away 6 is 2, 7 take away 4 is 3. So we're down to 322. What's the next biggest number from the list we can take away? Well, I make that 230. So let's take away 230. And 230 is a chunk of 10 23s. So put a little times 10 next to it so we remember what we've taken away. And let's work that out. 2 take away nothing is 2. 2 take away 3 we can't do, so borrow. 3 becomes a 2, and the one we borrowed turns this into 12. 12 take away 3 is 9. 2 take away 2 is nothing, so we're down to 92. Now, obviously, if you make a mistake in your subtraction, that is going to affect what you do later on. So you've got to be really, really careful that you don't make mistakes when you are subtracting. The next biggest number we can take away is 46. And the 46, so if we take away our 46, 46 is a chunk of 2 23s, which is there, so put a little times 2 next to it, and let's work that out. 2 take away 6 we can't do, so borrow from the 9, that becomes an 8, and the one we've borrowed makes that into 12. 12 take away 6 is 6, and 8 take away 4 is 4. We're down to 46. Now we're virtually done. The next biggest number we can take away from 46 is 46, which is another chunk of 2. So if we take away 46 again, that's another chunk of 2. Obviously 46, take away 46 is going to get us down to 0. So all we've got to do now is add up our chunks. We've got a chunk of 20, a chunk of 10, a chunk of 2, and another chunk of 2. 20 plus 10 is 30, plus another 2 is 32, plus another 2 is 34. So the final answer to this question is 34. 782 divided by 23 is 34. Moving on to question 12, we're dealing this time with chunks of 19. Again, we need the same chunks. So we need 1 lot, 10 lots, 100 lots, 2 lots, 20 lots, 200 lots, and 5 lots. All of those obviously are of 19, chunks of 19. But we need to work these out. So 1 lot of 19 is going to be 19. 10 19s is 190. 119s is 1,900. 2 19s is 38. 20 19s is 38, but 10 times bigger than that, so that's 380. 200 19s is 10 times bigger again, so 3,800. And 5 19s is half of 10 19s, which was 190. Half of 100 is 50. Half of 90 is 45. Put the two together, 50 and 45 is 95. So 5 19s are 95. Now we're going to set out our sum. 19s into 437. And we're going to start subtracting our chunks. The biggest chunk you can take away so far is 380. So take away 380. Make yourself a little sum. At the side, say what chunk of 19s that is. That's 20 19s. So you put a little times 20 at the side just to remind yourself. And let's work it out. So we've got 7 take away 0 is 7. 3 take away 8 we can't do. So borrow from the 4. The 4 becomes a 3. And the one you borrowed turns 3 into 13. 13 take away 8 is 5. 3 take away 3 is 0. So we're down to 57. The next biggest number we can take away from that is going to be the 38. So let's take away 38. And the 38 is a chunk of 2 19s. So put a little times 2 at the side. And let's take it away, see where we get. 7 take away 8 we can't do, so we borrow. Borrow from the 5, that becomes a 4. And the one we borrowed turns 7 and 17. 17 take away 8 is 9. And 4 take away 3 is 1. So we're down to 19. Now this is an easy one. Obviously the biggest chunk we've got left to take away is 19 itself. So take away 19. Remember, 19 is just one chunk of 19, so you put a little times 1 to remind yourself. 19 take 19 is nothing, gets us down to 0. So that all we've got to do left now is, that's as low as we can go, we've got to add up our chunks. So we've got a chunk of 20, a chunk of 2, and a chunk of 1. 20 plus 2 plus 1 is 23. So the final answer, 437 divided by 19 equals 23. Question number 14, we're dealing with chunks of 32. Do exactly the same again. So we want a chunk of 1, a chunk of 10, a chunk of 100, a chunk of 2, a chunk of 20, a chunk of 200, and a chunk of 5. Those chunks will get you through, those same chunks will get you through again and again. So these are obviously chunks of 32. So it's 132, 10 32s, 132s, 2 32s, 20 32s, 232s, and 5 32s. Let's work all of those out. 132 is 32, 10 32 is 320, 132 is 3,200, 2 32 is 64, 20 32 is 640, 232 is 6,400, 5 32s is half of 10 32, so that's half of 320. Half of 20 is 10, and half of 300 is 150. So 150 and 10, put them together, is 160. So 5 32s must be 160. We're going to set our question out, 32s into 768, and we're going to start subtracting the biggest chunks that we can. Well, the biggest chunk we can take away so far is this 640, so let's do take away 640. Make a little note for yourself as to what chunk that is. Well, 640 is 20 lots of 32. So put a little times 20 and work it out. 8 take away nothing is 8. 6 take away 4 is 2. 7 take away 6 is 1. So we're down to 128. The next biggest chunk that we can take away, I think, is this 64. So we're going to take away 64. And 64 is a chunk of 2 32s. So if you take away 64 from 128, remember to write a little note for yourself at the side that we're taking away 2 32s. Let's see what we get from that. 8 take away 4 is 4. 2 take away 6 we can't do, so borrow. 12 take away 6 is 6. We're down to 64. And no prizes for guessing. We can take another lot of 64 away from that, which is another lot of 2 32s. And 64 take away 64 gets you down to 0. Once you're down to 0, that's as low as you can go. You just add up your chunks. We've got a chunk of 20, a chunk of 2, and another chunk of 2. 20 plus 2 plus 2 is 24. So the final answer, 32s into 768, is 24. Now we've had a go at 4 questions ourselves, why don't you go back and have a go at the rest? Just remember, use the same chunks every time. 1, 10, 100, 2, 20, 200, and 5. There are other chunks you can make. So, for example, you could double a chunk of 20 to make a chunk of 40, and that will work. But the chunks we've done today will work every single time. Go and have a go yourself, and good luck.